Good morning, everyone. So today we will start with the bus bar protection in the power system. So what is the bus? Word bus in a power system. So word bus is actually derived from the Latin word omnibus, which means the common for all. So this omnibus means that common for all. Now, you can say that these bus bars are actually the nerve centers of the power system, where the various circuits are connected together. And these are actually the nodes of the electrical circuit. So you can say that these are actually the nodes of the electrical circuit. So these buses are the nodes of the electrical circuit. Now, so we will draw a figure and then we will explain the things better. Now, let us suppose that we will have a system. In this system, we will have the bus bar. Now, let us suppose that we have line that is which is known as the bus bar, and this is the incoming lines which are connecting to this bus bar like this, and these are actually the outgoing lines. So these are the incoming lines. Let n1 be the number of incoming lines. Let us suppose that number of incoming lines, it can be represented by n1, and the outgoing lines can be represented by n2 low. Now let us suppose that n1 be the incoming lines and n2 be the number of outgoing lines. So this is actually these are the incoming lines and these are the outgoing lines that we can label these lines also. So here we will have the incoming lines which are coming here and in this direction, and then outgoing lines, and these are connected together through the bus bar. So in this case, this is the bus bar. You can see from this diagram. So the protective zone be generated by the protective relay. So we can also have this protective zone which is created by the protective relay. So these are actually the protective zones which are created by the protective relay, and here we will have the circuit breakers also in this these incoming lines and outgoing lines. We will have the circuit breaker here. So and this is the protective zone. This is the blue color rectangle. It shows the protective zone generated by the protective relay. However, it may be noted that under the normal power flow condition, the sum of the incoming current is equals to the sum of the outgoing current. So you can see from this diagram, you can see that there is a large concentration of short circuit capacity at the bus bar, because we will have the large amount of the incoming current and the outgoing current. So the short circuit capacity at the bus bar is very high in this case. However, if you see that the fault on the bus bar is very rare, and you cannot say that it occurs frequently. So when the protective relays operate to isolate the bus bars from the system, there is a large disruption to the load. Bus bars are actually located in the switch yards. It can be located in the substation, and it can be located in the supply caissons. So the switch yards are well shielded from the direct lighting strokes, but because of their outdoor nature, are subject to the vagaries of the weather. The substations are well protected in all the respects, and fault probability is indeed very low in that very case. So similarly, the supply caissons are totally enclosed and sealed. Now, what are the main causes of the this faults experienced by the bus bar? So main causes of the fault experienced by the bus bar are, so you can see that the main causes of the fault experienced by the bus bar are, so what are the main causes? So you can write it here. Weakening of insulation. So first one is the weakening of the insulation. Then we will have first one is the weakening of the insulation. Then second we will have the corrosion because of the salty water. Corrosion because of the salty water. So the corrosion due to the salty water. And third one is the breakdown of insulation because of the over voltages. Breakdown of insulation due to the over voltages. Breakdown of insulation. So it can be due to the over voltages and foreign objects and so on. Also, if you see that we have the rodents, we have the lizards and snakes are known to have caused the busbar faults in the remote unmanned substations. Now, because of the low probability of the busbar fault, so the probability of the busbar fault is very low. So because of that low probability, for many years it is considered unnecessary to provide the you can say the explicit protection to the busbar. It was felt that time that the maloperation of the busbar protection system will be problematic by themselves and of little help in sensing the genuine faults. So it should be noted that the busbar fault in the overlap region between the two protective systems, that is we will have the here we have the protective system, here we have the protective system, so the busbar falls within that. If you have seen here, so they do get the backup protection, hence so the protective what the protection engineers thought, they hesitated from providing the exclusive busbar protection. Now, as the system voltage goes on increasing, that we are increasing the system voltage, and short circuit capacities also went on building up. So, voltage and short circuit capacity, it is also building up. In that very case, it is no longer advisable to leave the busbar unprotected on the primary basis. So now the question arises that what form of the protection is suitable for these busbars. However, if you see that if you see the system, that is this is the busbar and we will have the incoming lines and outgoing lines, in that very case we are really convinced that the differential protection will suit this situation, because the ends are physically near each other. So we can install the CTs on the two sides and we can simply compare the currents entering the busbar, that is leaving it, and any discrepancy between the two will immediately signal an internal fault. So in the subsequent sections we can explain this differential protection of this busbar. Now first we start with the differential busbar protection, and before that we will start with the selection of CT ratio in case of busbar protection. So we will have the differential protection. We are using the differential protection in that. And we will discuss the selection of CT ratios. Selection of the CT ratios. Now take into consideration this diagram. First one, we will see that we will have the two incoming feeders and one outgoing feeder. So we will have the two incoming feeders and we will have the one outgoing feeder, and which is being protected by the simple differential protection. The currents are the normal load flow currents. And now let us decide the CT ratios on the basis of the maximum primary current seen by the each CT. So in this case, the maximum primary current seen by the each CT is 1000 ampere, and then we will have the 2000 ampere, and here we will have the 3000 ampere. However, this choice of this, we choose this CT ratio, and it can be seen that if we choose this CT ratio, then in that very case we will have the current 1 ampere, then we will have the current 1 ampere, and here we will also have the current 1 ampere, and here total current is 2 ampere and the total current is 1 ampere. So 1 ampere will go to the overcurrent relay and it will trip. So so the method of selecting the CT ratio on the basis of the primary current seen by the feeder is not correct. So you can say that this method of selecting the CT ratio based on the primary current seen by the feeder, that is based on the primary current is not right, because we will have the spill current in that. Now take this case. In this case, what we have done, we will have the here we will have the 100 ampere, 1000 ampere, 2000 ampere and 3000 ampere. And what we do in this case, we select the CT ratio based on the maximum current in all the three CTs. So we will have the 3000 by 1 and 3000 by 1, and from this we will get 1 by 3 current, 1 by 3 ampere, 2 by 3 ampere and 1 ampere and 1 ampere. So from this what we conclude? So we conclude that there is no spill current in this path if we what we have to do, if we select the CT ratio based on the primary current of the that feeder that causes that has the maximum current. So maximum current criteria. So we have used the maximum current, so 3000, and we use that criterion. From this we will get we conclude that there is no CT current. So we draw a very important rule from that. So the CT ratio of all the CTs, what we draw the conclusion that CT ratio of all the CTs is equals to the maximum out of all the feeder currents, maximum out of all feeder currents divided by the 1 ampere or 5 ampere, whichever CT we are using. 1 ampere or 5 ampere, that is whichever we are using. Now we will analyze the system for the external and internal faults. Now we will analyze the system for the external and the internal faults. So we can write here the external and the internal faults. Now, in the previous discussion, what we have assumed that CTs are ideal. And when the CT primary current or the burden on it is within the design limits, CT can indeed be assumed to be more or less ideal. However, if you see that if the primary current goes on increasing and if it exceeds the design value or the CT burden, which is the output of the CT, CT burden become excessive and CT no longer behaves like an ideal CT, it becomes saturated. So it no longer behaves like an ideal CT, and non-ideal behavior of CT has very serious implications for the protective scheme. Now, figure here shows the current during the external fault. We will have same system. We will have used the turns ratio for the system, and we have the external fault at you can say CTC. So it can be seen that the CT on the faulty feeder, that is, this is the faulty feeder, it has to carry the sum of all the currents fed to the fault by the various feeders. And CTC, if you see this CTC, it will substantially has a very large amount of primary current than CTA and CTB, because whatever current is flowing through it is the sum of all the currents, and which is coming from the source. So very large amount of the current is flowing through this CTC, and as a result what happens that CTC becomes saturated. So CTC become saturated, and therefore we can no longer assume that the CTC will faithfully transform the fault current, as after saturation the current will not increase. Now let's suppose that for the sake of this illustration, what we have assumed that the secondary current of CTC is only 4 ampere, because the current will not increase beyond that when it is saturated. And then in that very case we will have the current which is coming from it is 10 ampere, and this here we have the current 4 ampere, and the 6 ampere current will flow through the spill path, and as a result it causes the scheme to maloperate, that it loses the stability on the external fault. Now what is the worst case scenario in that very case? The worst case scenario is that the CTA, CTB continue to transform faithfully as per their nameplate CT ratio, but CTC carries the total fault current, it gets saturated. So this clearly indicates that the occurrence of impedance in transformed secondary current result in substantial spill current. So this situation most likely will cause the scheme to maloperate, and operation of differential scheme under the external fault, you can say, is therefore clearly a cause of maloperation. So this is clearly a cause of maloperation when the CT is saturated and the large amount of current is flowing in the primary of one CT. Now what happens? Previously the fault was at that very point. Now the fault shifted to the internal fault. It shifts by a small distance to the left and becomes an internal fault, and still it is drawing the same current. From this we will see that the current that it is drawing is 10 ampere, and here we will have no current, because the whole of the current is fed to the fault. So no current is flowing through this primary, and as a result we will have the 0 ampere current here, and as a result the spill current of 10 ampere is flowing in this. So from this we will see that for internal fault it is working perfectly, and CTA and CTB are not carrying excessive primary currents, and they transform the current without too much error. And you can say that there is spill current in the spill path, and the scheme operates as expected. So the maloperation of the busbar differential scheme on external fault is caused due to the non-ideal behavior of CT carrying excessive primary current. It will therefore be pertinent to take a closer look over the actual behavior of the protective current transformer. We can see their equivalent diagram, and after that we can analyze that what happens in case of CTs in that very case. So we'll discuss the actual behavior of the protective CT. So here a figure you will see, here we will have the equivalent circuit of the CT referred to the secondary. Now in this case RP, XP are the primary winding resistance and leakage reactance respectively, referred to the secondary side, and RS and XS in that very case, as you already know, are the resistance and leakage reactance of the secondary winding, and the excitation is modeled as this X naught dash and core loss by R naught dash. So this is the equivalent circuit which is referred to the secondary. Now at the low value, we have to see the different situations. Now at the low value of the primary current, if you see that when the primary current is low, the IS current, secondary current is also low, IS is actually also low, and if the primary current is low, secondary current is also low, in that very case this total voltage is equals to, you can say that if the voltage is low then the drops is low, then the total voltage in that very case is induced by the secondary winding is equals to Z burden into I secondary. So total voltage which is induced is Z burden into I secondary, which is also low because IS is low in that very case. So the working flux, if you see that the working flux in that very case is also equals to, if you take the equation of the flux is equals to ES, that is E secondary divided by 4.44 Fn, which is also very low. So we will have the primary current is low, secondary current is low, ZSIS that is induced by the that is the voltage ES induced by the secondary that is a current which is approximately equals to ES, which is also equals to is low, and if this is low, then the working flux is also very low, and as a result, if the flux is low, in that very case the magnetizing current requirement is also very low. So you can say that the magnetizing current, if you take the magnetizing current as I naught, then that the magnetizing current requirement is also very low. So you can say in that very case what happens, the secondary current is equals to is substantially equal to primary current divided by the turns ratio, is equals to primary current divided by the turns ratio. Now this is the case when primary current is low. Now let us suppose that if the primary current increases, now if the primary current increases, the secondary current is also increases, and if the primary current increases, then you can say that the secondary current is also increased, and if the secondary current is increased, this causes the secondary induced voltage to increase, and increased secondary voltage, you can say it can be met with the increase in the working flux, that is phi. It will also increase, and as the flux increase, you can say that the transformer draw the higher value of the magnetizing current. However, because of the non-linear nature of the BH curve of the CT, as the knee of the excitation characteristic is passed, any further increase in the flux demand causes a large increase in the magnetizing requirement of the CT, which can be illustrated by this diagram. So from this what we see, because of the non-linear nature of this magnetizing current, what happens, the knee of the excitation characteristics is passed, we are moving from this knee of the excitation characteristics. So any further increase in the flux demand, if any further increase in the flux demand is there, it causes the large increase in the magnetizing current, as you have seen from this diagram. So you can say that I naught is no longer sinusoidal in that very case, because large magnetizing current is required, and when it passes this knee point, in that very case the magnetizing current requirement is very large. So you can say that I naught in that case is not sinusoidal, and waveform has the prominent peak. So I naught is not sinusoidal. And the waveform has the prominent peak. Now what happens, as the primary current goes on increasing, a stage will come, it goes on, a stage will come, then the magnetizing current requirement is so large, as you have seen from this diagram. The magnetizing current requirement is so large that almost all the transformed current, that is this primary current, is taken by CT for the sole purpose of magnetization, and with the result that there is hardly any current available for the burden, because whole of that current is used for the magnetization. And when this occurs, we can say that this CT is completely saturated when the whole of this current is used for the magnetization purposes. Now the secondary induced voltage and the burden current waveform are highly distorted in that very case. So if you see from this, we will have I naught, then magnetizing current, we have the IP primary current, then we will have the flux because it is saturated. So we have the flux waveform, and from the flux we will get the this secondary voltage waveform which is highly distorted. So from this we will see it consists of only the sharp pulses near the crossing of primary this current. It can be seen that in order to reach the peak of the sinusoidal flux waveform, the CT is driven deep into the saturation, and due to the flatness of the excitation curve in this region, a very large amount of excitation current is demanded by the CT. And the waveform of the exciting current, of course, becomes distorted, as in fact very peaky in the nature. As you can see that we will have this flux, we will have the magnetization current, we have the primary current, then we have the induced secondary voltage, and we have the secondary current which can be obtained from that. So now from this discussion we can model the saturated CT. How we can model the saturated CT? What we have we have a new model in case of saturated CT. So it can be seen that the magnetization that is magnetizing branch is replaced by the short circuit, because the maximum of the current is flowing through the magnetization branch, and very you cannot say the negligible current is available for this branch burden and this secondary branch. So the maximum of the current is taken by this branch. So you can see from this this magnetization branch, we replace it with the short circuit to signify the fact that the magnetization branch is taking up all the secondary current and none is available to the burden. So this is the circuit model for that saturated CT. So the circuit model consists of the current source. We will have here we have the current source feeding this RP, XP. The connection to the outside world are available to the RS and XS. However, in that very case, the maximum of the current is flowing through this line, magnetization branch, and it is represented by the short circuit. So this is all about the this CT and the base and the different differential protection schemes, that how we can select the CT ratios and all that. In the next lecture, we will study about the external fault, that how we can nullify that. Thank you very much for this lecture.